Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to kind of complete our cycle of what we're going to do in this, right? So you can see from the screen here, I drew it in AutoCAD just using 2D, nothing but 2D methods here. And we also took a look at doing it in three-dimensional AutoCAD, and let me jump back to the modeling tab so you can see that I do have a 3D model there. So you've seen me do it that way. Now we're going to take a look at doing it in Inventor, and you can kind of use all three of these videos to compare to each other, right? So you can see which one is a little bit easier, and I can tell you right now the Inventor is going to go a lot quicker and smoother than the AutoCAD one will, because mainly Inventor was made for mechanical parts, and that's exactly kind of what we're creating here. So that's kind of the origin of it. Not to say that we can't do it in AutoCAD. As you can see, we can create 3D models and things of that nature. All right, so I'm just going to switch over to Inventor, and we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so now that we're in Inventor, we're going to go ahead and do our normal stuff here. We're going to start by clicking on the new button here. Then I'll give it a second or two to wait for the icon to come up. And let's see, where's that dialog box? There it is. And then I'm have to determine what units I'm going to use. So am I going to use inches, millimeters, centimeters, whatever? I have to define that here in the beginning. So what I'm going to do is use the millimeters. And you'll notice that underneath my templates, I'm set to metric. Here's my standard millimeter. And then I'll go ahead and hit the create button. And then we'll give Inventor a couple of more seconds here to switch over so we can start doing our drafting. And once everything switches over, you'll see that we do have our modeling ribbon here at the top. And it looks really similar to what we was doing in AutoCAD, right? So you can see that some of these look exactly the same or very similar to some of the three-dimensional things that we do in AutoCAD. Now the benefit of that is that if you learn AutoCAD first, then when you switch over to learning Inventor, you kind of already got the concept of the way things work. And you know exactly what I mean by that, especially when we get into the drafting portion of it, or the modeling part when we're drawing two-dimensional sketches is what I'm actually trying to say. All right, so switching back here to to Inventor. Now I have to decide which plane that I'm going to create this on, and I'll go ahead and click on this icon here to start my sketch. So what I like to do is reference my view cube here. So am I going to use the front, right, and the top? And that's the traditional way an isometric is made. So those are going to be the three views that you're going to see on any isometric drawing. So if we want it to look really similar to what we created here in AutoCAD, right? So you can see that this is my front view, this is my right side view, and this is my top view. So I'm going to orient my three-dimensional part to be that way. And I think the easiest method here is to go ahead and create it right here on the top view. So I'm going to select this XZ plane, and once I select it, give it a second and it should come up, and then it's going to rotate. Now one of the things that kind of aggravates me here in Inventor as opposed to SolidWorks or some of the other three-dimensional programs is that depending on where you click on that plane, sometimes it will reorient your view cube up here at the top. Well, my little OD or my kind of things that want to make things, kind of read right. I want to rotate this, right? So I'm just going to select here. And now the word top is rotated correctly. And then I can go ahead and start creating this, right? So I'm going to start off by creating this rectangle that goes around it. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. Underneath the drop down here, I'm going to select a center point rectangle, right? So 2-point center rectangle. And then I'll go ahead and click the first point here, which is the center point here. So I'm just going to do a left click there. And then I'll kind of pull out here and give myself a preview of how my rectangle is going to appear. Okay, so next I'll go ahead and put some dimensions on this. And I'll go to the dimension command. Go ahead and place this one. And it will be at 100. And then we're going to place the dimension here, and that's going to give me my 60. Now at this point, I'm actually done with all I need on this sketch. Let's go ahead and hit the finish sketch. Let's zoom out a little bit. And kind of like we did before when I was dealing with doing this in AutoCAD 3D, what I'm going to take a look is that I'm at this surface here, and let's go ahead and switch over to the layout tab so we can see it a little bit better. I'm at this location here where these dotted lines are, right? I need to extrude this either down or up from that, right? So that's just going to depend on how you want to create this. I can assume that I'm starting off here at the bottom and come up. I can do that as well, but I'm going to pretend like I'm right here at this dotted line here, and I need to go down a distance of 20. So I'm going to switch over and knock that out. So once I come to the extrude command, it should automatically pick the profile for me, which it does. Once the dialog box appears, I'm going to go ahead and tell it that I need this number to be 20, and I'm going to send this going down by selecting this icon here. Go ahead and hit OK. Alright, so the first part of my shape is created. Next, let's go ahead and work along here on the top part. So I'm just going to select here, and then I'll select this icon with the green plus, right? That just tells it to start a new sketch. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this, and then I'll go ahead and create my first sketch, right? So let's go ahead and create a rectangle that's located at this endpoint. And then I'll come up this way. Up, looks like I'm still in that center point rectangle. Let me escape out of that and go ahead and come back to the 2-point rectangle. I'll select this endpoint here and then place it here. All right, let's go ahead and put some dimensions on this. We know that a dimension going across here is going to be 40. And then the dimension that is here should be 20. Okay. So now I have to decide, do I want to do all of these or do I want to kind of pattern them? And I think I'm going to leave it up to pattern them just so we can do a little bit more work in kind of figuring out some of these other commands in this program. So I'll go to finish sketch. Next thing I'm going to do is use the extrude command. And then I need to send this up a height. The height that I'm going to use in this case will be 10. Okay. Now I can go ahead and place my circles or my holes onto this, and remember these are two same size holes, so therefore I'm going to use a sketch as opposed to using just directly the hole command. So I'm going to select this top surface. Once again, I'm going to select the icon with the green plus. Let's go ahead and rotate this back around. I'm going to use the point command, and then I'm just going to select 2 points here, right? Let's zoom in a little bit. And then let's go ahead and put some dimensions on that. So I'm going to dimension from this line here to here is going to be 10. And then the distance in between them should be 20. And then I have to give it one more dimension. So from this edge going up, it's got to be 10. And now it's saying that I need one more dimension. Just remember that this one in the back is set free, right? So I want to make sure that this one is horizontal to this one, right? So I'm going to try to use a constraint. Now you have to make sure that when you're using these constraints, you have to look at the cursor or the icon, right? So I'm going to go with the vertical one. I'm sorry, the horizontal one. Make sure that you're getting those dotted lines that is following your cursor across that are also horizontal. And if you have that, go ahead and select that point and then select the other point. Go ahead and hit escape. If you look down here to the bottom right, it is fully constrained. I'll finish this sketch. I'm just going to zoom in more so I can see what happens when we put the hole in. And we'll go to the hole command. It should automatically find those 2 points. The dialog box is looking for me to give it a diameter. In our case, we're going to give it a diameter of 10. We do have our holes in there. And we're selling it to go through all. So that's what this icon here is doing. And some other things, if you're kind of looking around this dialog box, is that we're just using a straight, simple hole to go through it. So if we had something that was threaded, counterbored, or spot faced, we do have those options here as well. Go ahead and hit the OK button. And now we have our part kind of, somewhat created. Next, let's go ahead and create a pattern, right? So I'm going to use the rectangular pattern. And then I'm going to select the features that I want to basically copy. So I'm going to use the holes. I want to use those. I also want this extrusion, right? So those are the 2 features that I'm going to use. Remember that feature number 1 is the main body. We don't need to do that, so we're going to use that. All right, so we're selecting those features. Next, I got to give it a direction. So how far do I want to go across here? So I'm going to select this icon here with the red arrow. I'm going to select this line here, and then that's going to tell me, hey, we're going to go that direction. Now we need to kind of figure out a little math to figure out how far that is. Now, lucky for us, we do have AutoCAD still open, and we can just simply measure the distance from this circle here to this one here. That's one way of doing it. Or if you want to do the math, we know that this is going across at 100, right? And we know that 10 plus this 20 is equal to 30. So from here to there is 30. Likewise, on the other side is 30. So 30 plus 30 is 60. And if I subtract that from 100, I know that distance from here to here has to be 40, right? So if I was to put a dimension on that, it's going to be 40. So what that's telling me is that the distance from here all the way to here is going to be the 40 plus the 20. So that distance is going to be 60. Now, while I'm here, I'll go ahead and figure out the other one. And you can see that one as well, right? So the distance from this point to here is just simply directly 40. It's just right off the drawing on this one. All right, so we have 60 and 40. So this first direction that I'm going to do, I'm only going to make 2 of them. So I'm including the first one and then the second one. This number will be 60. So you can see that the preview has placed it there. I'm going to select this red arrow. I'm going to tell it to go that direction. And then I'm going to give this number 40. Right? So when I do that, you should have all of my little shapes there at the top created. Now, I purposely left off doing my fillets inside of the command because it's a lot easier to use the fillet command and do all of them, since all of these are exactly the same. So I'll go to fillet. I'll go ahead and put in my radius, which is 10. And then I'll go ahead and start selecting around this shape, right? And I'm only getting to the ones that I know I can get to. And when I rotate this, I should be able to get to the other ones. Let's do one rotation right around here. Now I can get to this back side here. And then this one here in the front. Okay. So those are going to be the 8 edges that I need to select. Once I hit the OK button, it is actually done, right? So that's that whole entire part actually done for us, right? So we don't have to worry about doing anything else. This one is completed. Now we can go ahead and start our drafting. But before I do any drafting, I have to save this drawing. So I'm just going to do a Control S, or you can come and select the icon that is located here. I have to give it a name, right? So any of these names will do, and I'm just going to copy over these last names that I did. So let's use the EX1, since that'll be example 1. I'll go ahead and hit save. And yes, I'll go ahead and replace it in this case. So this is my new part, right? And I'm going to leave this open mainly because Inventor will automatically select this if I leave it open. So let's go and select the new icon here at the top. Tell it that we want to use a ANSI millimeter drawing. I'm going to create this. All right, I'm going to give it a couple of seconds here, and it should be transforming over to a drafting view here in a second. All right, once it appears, let's go ahead and get rid of our title block here. So I'm just going to do a right click on it and delete it. And then let's go ahead and make this a lot smaller, right? So I'm going to go to sheet 1, do a right click on it, select edit sheet. And let's go ahead and make this an A size, since we did that on the AutoCAD drawings. So I'll select A size here. It's going to be in a landscape mode. Go ahead and hit the OK button. And let's go ahead and bring in our views, right? So I'm going to go to base. Give it a second. It should follow around. There's my front view. I'm just going to move this one down to this corner. All right. And then I'll go ahead and place this view here, and one isometric view up here in the corner. Go ahead and hit the OK button, and it should generate all of those views for me. Now I can make this a little bit smaller, so I'm just going to double click it. And then you see that that view is 1:1. Let's just go ahead and make it 0.75. And then I'll move it up here in the corner a little bit more. Okay. And then the last thing I like to do is just go ahead and put all of my dimensions on it and don't worry about the style, right? So I'll click on where it says annotate. I'll choose the dimensioning. Go from that endpoint going across. Now, this is unlike in AutoCAD. Now, if I want to make sure that this dimension goes to the outside here, it's going to be the first point that I select as opposed to being the last point. So if I select this endpoint first. Oh, let me go ahead and put my center marks on here before I do that. Oh. Before I get one step ahead of myself, let's go ahead and put the center marks on and go ahead and select these holes. That way it'll make my dimensioning a lot easier. Then we'll come down to here and do the 2-point center here, so that bisecting one here. Now this is one thing I do like about Inventor over AutoCAD is that it keeps this one in kind of rapid fire mode. And if I remember in another video, there is a command where you can use to keep them in rapid fire mode in AutoCAD as well. So I'll try to remember to put that in an upcoming video. Alright, now let's go back and put our dimension on. And so if I want that dimension to guarantee that it's going to be here on the outside, I'm going to start with this endpoint, and then I'll pick my center line. And now you see that that dimension will stay to the outside. Likewise on this side. So I'm going to select out here first, and then this line, and then it will put my dimension on the outside, right? And I want to make sure that these are on the inside, so I'll select here first, and then this one, place it there. And this is one of those things that will help your keystroke out a lot, mainly because you're already doing some of the work that you would have to do later, right? So just go ahead and keep doing all of your dimensions. I want to make sure that if it does have to be, it'll be out at the bottom, which it is. Go from here to here. And I'm just going to finish dimensioning this. You can see that it's really nothing special to doing this. It's just a matter of selecting the endpoints that you need it to be at. And making sure that you are understanding how you're dimensioning, how you can control where you want these dimensions to end up. It just saves you that work from coming back later. And once again, you also see that I am in a kind of rapid fire mode of creating my dimensions. Let me escape out of here. The reason mine is doing that, if I double click on this 30, then I'm going to save this for these dimensions over here. And I'll go ahead and put a check in this box here where it says edit dimensions when created and hit OK. Now when I go and do dimensions, it's going to stop me every time. So I'm going to place a dimension from here to here. And once I go to place that dimension, let's see if I can get it to line up. It's going to come up with that dialog box, right? And that's one of those things where it just depends on if you like that option or not. Me, I prefer not to have that on as I'm creating dimensions. So I'm just going to escape out of the dimension command. Go ahead and double click on this dimension here and uncheck this box. Basically put it back in rapid fire mode. And then go ahead and finish my dimensioning, right? And one more dimension, which is located from here to here. Okay, and then we go ahead and put our radius and our diameter dimensions on. And the other good news is that it's all in one command here. So it's not that you gotta kind of fumble between multiple commands. Okay, so all of my dimensions are done. And now the last thing I need to do is go ahead and fix the style of these. Remember, style is located underneath manage, and then you're gonna select the style editor. And once this is going to depend on how fast or slow your computer is running, and I will apologize. My computer is running a little bit extra slow today, so it's kind of taking a little longer than usual. But once it does, it'll bring open a dialog box that looks like this. And all we need to do is start adjusting this, right? So the display is going to be, oh, I meant to actually start with the units. Let's go ahead and get rid of those trailing zeros. So then this is another one of those things that is opposite of AutoCAD. So in the AutoCAD dialog box, we have to suppress the trailing zeros. In Inventor, we have to turn off the display of them, right? So we're unchecking this box, whereas in AutoCAD, we're checking a box. So that's one of those things that's kind of different from the way this goes. Next, I'll go ahead and select the text icon here, and I'm just going to make all of my dimensions horizontal, no matter which location they're in. So that's what these 3 boxes are. All of the rest of the stuff I don't have to worry about. I'm just going to go to save and close, give it a second, and these dimensions should straighten out. And then we can do our cleanup work by just putting the 8 places or something of that nature in front of these. And that's as simple as just double clicking on each one of these little icons here. It's going to bring open that dialog box. I'll click on the text tab here. Let me get in front of that and just type in 8x and give it a space bar. Now, if this is kind of driving you crazy, you can always do a copy on this, right? So I'll do a Control C, hit the OK button on this one. And so now when I double click on the next one, I'll go to the front of it, just do a Control V and paste it. And then kind of likewise with these, this is going to be 4 places. So once I get in front of it, I'll do my Control V, change this to a 4, and then I'll go right back to copying this, right? So that's kind of what I would do if I was, fully dimensioning this. Another thing you can do is always hit the home button on your keyboard and do a paste. And then we come here at the top. Let me double click on this one. Hit the home button, do a paste. Tell it that this is going to be 2 places. And then go right back to copying this. So that's going to be a Control C. Then we're just going to kind of finish working all of these in. So that's a paste. Double click, home button, Control V. Simply, and the last one we have here is a double click, home button, Control V, hit OK. Then let's zoom out and take a look at all of this. Oh, look like we got one more now. All right, so it's totally done now, and just kind of depending on how you want this to view, you can change the shading and things of that nature on this, but overall, it's actually completed and it looks really good. And we did this video even with a bunch of instructions. I would say roughly about the same time as we did the one that was in AutoCAD 3D, but the AutoCAD 2D, that video was way longer than this, probably double that, because creating an isometric takes a little bit more work. But in here, it'll knock out the isometric, the views and everything. All right, so that's enough of me waffling through this video here. I want to thank you for watching this. If you got any kind of value out of this, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button for me, as I really enjoy creating these videos for you. Right, so this is some of those things that if you're gonna learn, especially AutoCAD, Inventor would be your natural progression next after you learned AutoCAD. So that's kind of another reason why I'm showing you these videos. But thank you for tuning in and watching, and can't wait till next week when I come up something else. So once again, thank you for watching.